Hello friends, as part of this discussion, we will be today covering Python exception handling, and also we'll try to understand and implement exception handling in Python. So let's start. So first of all, let us understand why exception handling is required, what it is. It's an event that disrupt normal program flow. So if exception occurs in a program, it disrupts normal program flow. And by handling these exceptions, we prevent crashes. We can provide meaningful error messages. So suppose something happened which we never expected. When we productionize software, it may come with some situations which we may not have dealt with earlier, or we may not have prevented. So in those cases, exceptional cases, we can handle those situations using exception handling mechanism, and we can provide meaningful error messages. So basically it ensures smooth execution of software rather than crashing. We can handle that exception and show meaningful messages. So that is the whole purpose of exception handling. Now let us understand some common types of exceptions in Python. So there could be various exceptions. Some popular ones are listed down here. Syntax error. So any syntax related error, type error, value error, zero division error, index error, and key error. So these are some common ones which we have listed here, but there are many. You can refer to detailed documentation in Python exception handling. So let's move ahead. Understand some best practices of exception handling. But before that, I would like to show you some examples. So let us go into the Python code. So if you see here, so basic try catch block we have explained here. So what we are doing, let's say I am taking an input, enter a number. So now using that input, basically if I want to compute something, let's say I am dividing 10 by that number. So we know that we can't divide a number by 0. So if somebody by mistake enters 0, so it should show us an error, zero division error, which we have handled here. So we are saying that cannot divide by 0. Another option could be user has, instead of number, they have given character as an input, let's say. That also we can handle. We can say that invalid input, enter a number. So let's see how it handles. So in try block, we write our logic. If something happens, some exception happens here, so it is caught through this except block where we catch those exceptions. So you can define n number of basically various exceptions you can define using except block where we catch. So this is one type of exception. This is basically generic exception, or you can say value error. We can also define generic exception by a block. So various exception can be caught. So try blocks where we define the logic. If something happens in the try block, so those exceptions are handled through this except blocks where we catch and handle those exceptions. So let's see, if I put 0 here, we'll see that cannot divide by 0. So let's say I put, instead of integer, I put character. So it is saying invalid input, enter a number. So it is coming over here. Now let's say I give an valid input, so it should be able to execute. So enter a number, so nothing happened. In this case 10 divided by 1, it got succeeded. So nothing happened because we have given an integer. Let's say I give 5, it should work. Yeah, there is no exception. So that's how, using try and except block, or you can say try and this catch block, we handle exception. Now let's see some variations using else and finally blocks, how we can handle. So suppose you have got an exception here. Earlier we saw through except block we are catching it, and then we can say that file read successfully. If this block was successful, basically this logic was successful, or file was found, then it will say that file read successfully. That's how we can show those messages. If something I mean the process is succeeding, so then we can show this block, otherwise we can catch here. And then finally block, basically it will definitely execute. So if you want to close or you want to handle something, in case of database we have connection, right? So we want to close the connection after processing everything, so we can write in this finally block. In case of file, we are reading the file, so we want to now close this file connection basically, or you can say file object, so we are closing here. So finally basically before exiting from this program, it will do the processing whatever you write here. So now let's see, if I run this, so this file was found, it read successfully. If I say, let's say I make this name, so this file won't be found, right? So then it should show us error. Yeah, so file not found, because this file doesn't exist in this directory. So that's how we handle. Then another option could be raising custom exceptions. So we can raise our customized exceptions. So in this case, if you see, we want to basically take age 18 or greater than 18. So we are basically restricting that age must be 18 or greater than 18. So how we can handle it? So if it is less than 18, we will return an error. So if it is less than 18, we will say that raise value error, and we are mentioning this error. What is that error? So here, if you see here in try block, if I call these functions and if the value is less than 18, it will raise this value error, and that would be caught in this except block. So we are catching that exception here and showing the appropriate message. If I now run it, so you will see that age must be greater than 18, and if I say, let's say 20, if I provide, it should not show any error, access granted. So it is successful. Now if I say that 2, so age must be 18 or older. So that's how custom exceptions we can handle. Then we can create some exception classes as well. So we can create our own exception class, like in this case negative number error. So we are not doing anything here right now, but just for an example we are showing that we created our own exception class. We can put some mechanism inside this class how we want to deal with this. But if you see, this class can be raised, our custom exception class can be raised as an error, and we can provide here. So let's see how it works. If I run this, negative number not allowed. So if the number is less than 0, we are raising this negative number error, and this is the message what we want to show. So if it is -5, we are providing -5 in this function, so it is showing me this error. Now if I say that 5, there is no error, valid number. But if I say that -25, it will show me error. And how we are handling this? By our own custom exception class. So that's how we can write our own custom exception class as well. Okay. Yeah, so these examples you will find in our GitLab repository. You can play with this code and get more idea about how things works in Python. Now let's move to this best practices for exception handling. So catch specific exceptions. So it is recommended that you catch specific exceptions and then followed by generic exceptions. Avoid bare except, basically don't put any block where you are just catching it and not handling properly. So it's not recommended. So you should appropriately handle the exceptions in the except block. And then use finally for resource cleanup. As I mentioned, database closure, file object closure. So all those you can do in finally block, which will be definitely executed before exiting from your function. Use logging for errors. So in except block, you should log the errors appropriately, and it is recommended that you raise exceptions when necessary. So if you think that your code may generate some or face some abnormal cases which you have not considered right now, so in that case always use try catch or handle exceptions. Moving ahead, so in summary, we can say that exception handling improves robustness of the program. Then finally block we can use for cleanup. Any database connection or any open connection we can close. And then custom exceptions are better for error management, like we can write our own custom exceptions and handle appropriately based on our requirement. And it's recommended that you follow best practices. You can refer some documents regarding this. So Python has some recommended best practices as well, you can follow in internet. Yeah, so that's how we have gone through some examples, so you can play with those codes we provide. So the code link you will find in the description of this video, so refer to those code as well. So thank you.